My wife said, "Stop asking why I'm coming home late." She didn't know that one sentence would expose a betrayal planned long before I ever saw it coming. My name is Daniel, 35, systems engineer. I'm not the type who digs for trouble or overthinks shadows on the wall. My life used to be simple. Work hard, stay loyal, keep my home stable. I thought marriage worked the same way, steady, predictable, like a machine you maintain and trust. I was wrong. Machines break. People lie. I've been married to Laura, 33, for 7 years. Nothing explosive, nothing dramatic. Just a quiet, structured marriage. She worked in marketing, events, clients, late meetings. I never questioned it. I believed her world was simply louder than mine. The changes started small. The kind of small you only notice when it becomes big. Laura began coming home later. At first, only 30 minutes. Then an hour, then 2. Each time she had an excuse ready. Traffic, clients, deadlines. I took every explanation at face value, because that's what a trusting husband does. Or maybe that's what a naive one does. One night I asked when she wanted dinner warmed up. She didn't even look at me when she dropped her bag on the chair. "Stop asking why I'm coming home late." Cold, sharp, not tired, just dismissive. Like I had become background noise in my own home. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just felt something subtle yet permanent shift inside me, like a floorboard loosening beneath your feet. You don't fall right away, you only start noticing the creak. I began paying attention in quiet ways. Her phone, once left carelessly on counters, was now always face down. Notifications silenced. New outfits appeared without receipts. A different perfume lingered on her clothes, not one she owned. Her laughter changed too, lighter, distant, a sound not meant for me. Still, there was no proof. Only instinct. And instinct, when ignored for too long, becomes a warning. Then came the first undeniable sign. One Friday I had to work from home due to a server outage. Laura told me she had a critical strategy meeting from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. But at 6 p.m., a co-worker's Instagram story popped up. A group selfie, a bar wine glasses. The caption, "Team got released early. Wine time." Laura was in the photo, smiling, relaxed, nowhere near a conference room. I didn't call. I didn't confront. So I saved the story. She came home close to 11 p.m. and repeated the usual script. Meeting ran late, demanding client, all that. I listened, and for the first time I realized how easy lying had become for her. She didn't even hesitate. She didn't even care if I believed it. That was worse than the lie itself. A few days later, I found a receipt from a high-end restaurant, reservation only, expensive, intimate. A place for anniversaries or affairs, not business meetings. Laura never mentioned it. Her calendar said client brainstorming. I still didn't confront her. I've seen men blow up early and lose everything, because emotion clouded their judgment. Rage is loud. Silence is far more dangerous. I installed interior security cameras under the pretense of rising break-ins in the neighborhood. Laura didn't question it. She barely acknowledged anything I did anymore, and slowly, piece by piece, the truth began slipping through the cracks. Late-night calls she took in the bathroom. 15-minute showers after coming home late. Showers she never used to take at night. New lingerie folded inside drawers she never let me open anymore. A password change on her phone. Then a second one. But the moment everything snapped into focus was a random Monday morning. Laura rushed out the door to grab something from her car and left her phone on the counter. The screen lit up with a message preview. "Don't wear the dress from yesterday. I can still smell it on you." No name. Just a number. A sentence that sliced through the last shred of doubt. I didn't touch her phone. I didn't scroll. I didn't need more. That one message already burned itself into my mind. Laura walked back in, picked up her phone and carried on like it was just another Monday. I didn't say a word. I didn't ask a question. I simply watched her walk around our home with the calm confidence of someone who believed she'd never be caught because she thought her husband was too gentle, too trusting, too blind. That's when something inside me changed. Not heartbreak, not anger, something colder, sharper. Nothing is more dangerous than a man who has been quietly underestimated, and Laura had just made that mistake. I still don't know which moment was worse, discovering my wife was cheating, or realizing that her entire family had known for weeks, maybe months, and every single one of them chose to stay silent. Since that day, I've felt like I'm living inside a house full of strangers wearing familiar faces. I walk into the living room, silence. I step into the kitchen. The conversation changes instantly. Their eyes avoid mine, then flick back with that uncomfortable mix of guilt and calculation. It didn't take long for me to understand the truth. They weren't worried about my feelings. They were worried about losing the comfortable life my income provided. And the worst part? They all expected me to swallow the betrayal, smile politely, and be a man about it. But I didn't give them the show they were waiting for. No yelling. No begging. No dramatic meltdown they could use later as justification like, "See? This is why Emily needed comfort. Mark has anger issues." No, I stayed quiet, I observed. I stepped back, not because I was weak, but because I was preparing the kind of counterattack that only looks calm on the surface. After catching Emily cheating with her manager, I thought that was the lowest point of my marriage. I thought I'd already hit rock bottom. I was wrong. 2 days later, I overheard her mother talking to Emily's sister in the hallway. Her voice carried enough for me to catch every word. Just give him time. Men like Mark don't leave. He's stable. Emily would be stupid to lose him. That was the moment something inside me snapped into place. To them, I wasn't a husband. I wasn't family. I was a walking paycheck, and Emily, she didn't even apologize. Not really. She cried just enough tears to look fragile. She sighed just enough to seem overwhelmed. She crafted this perfect manipulative narrative where she became the victim of loneliness. The unfulfilled wife driven to make a terrible mistake. It was textbook emotional manipulation. And I refused to play along. She started cooking more, fixing the bedroom, sending messages like, "I want to try again," and "I'll be a better wife." But behind those words, I saw the truth in her eyes. It wasn't love. It wasn't regret. It was fear. Fear of losing stability. Fear of losing her picture-perfect marriage on social media. Fear of facing her friends as the woman who blew up her own life. Nobody cared about what I lost. They only cared about what they would lose if I walked away. So I started preparing, not to forgive, but to expose the entire foundation of lies they'd built their lives on. I collected everything. Messages, emails, phone, logs, photos, the front door camera footage that showed her manager picking her up on nights she claimed she was working late. Every piece of evidence was a brick in the wall I was building, one that would block any future attempts to rewrite what happened. I quietly withdrew my own contributions from our joint account, not a cent more. I hired a lawyer. I scanned every shared document. I moved a few personal items to a friend's apartment, preparing for the day I'd leave. And during that time, I said nothing. Emily thought my silence meant I was considering forgiveness. Her family thought I was ashamed or broken. They relaxed. They thought they'd won. They had no idea they were standing on a trapdoor. The turning point came during a family dinner they organized, more like an ambush disguised as a reconciliation meeting. Her mother, father, sister, and brother-in-law were all there. They filled the air with fake warmth, throwing around words like healing, family, and moving forward. Emily played the fragile, misunderstood wife perfectly, even placing her trembling hand on mine as if she still had that right. I watched all of it. The acting, the manipulation, the subtle guilt trips. And I realized something. These people weren't used to being challenged. They expected obedience. They expected a quiet, grateful son-in-law who would endure humiliation to protect their family image, but they had no idea what I had prepared for the next 48 hours. No one in that room could have guessed what I was about to do, something that would flip their perfect little script upside down and expose every lie. They'd worked so hard to cover up. One thing I knew for certain is a man who has nothing left to lose is the one they should fear the most. I don't know what to call that dinner. A family meeting? An intervention? Or a courtroom where I was the defendant and Emily was the fragile, misunderstood victim they all came to protect. Nobody said it out loud, but their eyes did. Every sympathetic glance directed at her. Every subtle shake of the head aimed at me. Every carefully crafted sentence about healing, forgiveness, and moving forward. Not one of them cared about what I went through. Not one asked me how it felt to discover my wife in another man's car, kissing him like he was the one she'd promised her life to. No. Tonight was about Emily, her tears, her embarrassment, her future. They didn't want the truth. They wanted a script. Emily, the wounded wife who made a mistake. Me, the dependable husband who should swallow humiliation and save the family from scandal, but I didn't. Step into the role they wrote for me. I sat through the whole evening mostly silent, not because I was broken, but because I was memorizing every detail, every manipulation, every person who chose to protect the lie instead of acknowledging the truth. Her mother kept touching Emily's shoulder like she was comforting a grieving widow and not someone who had willingly betrayed her marriage. Her father talked about learning from conflict. Her sister kept giving me that condescending look, like I was being dramatic for not wanting to live with a cheater. They had no idea. I'd already made my move. Before coming to dinner, I'd spent the entire day preparing for war, not the loud, violent kind, but the quiet, meticulous kind that destroys the foundations someone thought were unbreakable. By the time I sat at that table, here's what was already in motion. A divorce attorney had filed the petition on my behalf, complete with irrefutable proof of her infidelity. I had closed our joint account and separated all finances. The house, solely in my name, was legally secured, and a 30-day notice was drafted for Emily to vacate. And the most devastating piece, I submitted the evidence of Emily's affair to her company's HR department. Her affair partner was her direct manager. Their relationship violated every ethics rule that corporation had. I didn't threaten anyone. I didn't yell. I simply reported the policy violation. Whatever happened afterward wasn't my doing. It was theirs. During dinner, while everyone was lecturing me about forgiveness, Emily's phone kept vibrating. She glanced at it with that small flicker of panic she tried, and failed to hide. I wasn't surprised. She knew exactly what those notifications meant. But I didn't comment. I placed my fork down, looked around the table, and realized something. These people weren't ready for the quiet version of revenge. They expected shouting chaos, a dramatic meltdown they could later weaponize against me. Instead, I offered them the kind of silence that terrifies manipulators, the silence of a man who has already taken action. Dinner ended with fake smiles and hollow goodbyes. Emily squeezed my arm as we walked out, trying to play the repentant wife. She still believed she had time to fix this, to twist the narrative to regain control. She had no idea time had already run out. When we got home, I placed the envelope from my lawyer on the kitchen table. She froze the instant she saw the letterhead. She didn't even open it. Her eyes said everything: fear, disbelief, a collapsing tower of entitlement. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need to explain. I simply told her, "Tomorrow you won't be living here anymore." Her knees buckled. She started crying, loud, desperate sobs that were meant to change my mind, but I wasn't standing in the wreckage anymore. I was already outside of it. I walked away before she could even finish her first sentence. That was the moment she understood the truth. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done, and a man who is done, truly done, is far more frightening than a man who is furious. But Emily hadn't yet faced the consequences waiting for her in the next 48 hours. If she thought losing our marriage was the worst outcome, she was about to learn what real fallout looks like. I thought Emily breaking down over the divorce papers would be the peak of the entire ordeal. Turns out, it was only the warm-up. The next morning, the house felt unnervingly quiet. Emily was curled up on the living room couch, or rather she hadn't moved since crying herself to sleep there. Her eyes were swollen. Mascara streaked across her cheeks like war paint after a lost battle. She looked at me the moment I stepped into the room, like I was the last person who could pull her out of the storm she had created. And yes, a storm was coming. She just didn't realize I wasn't standing on her side of it anymore. Around 8 a.m. her phone started buzzing non-stop. First messages, then emails, finally calls. I watched her from the kitchen as I poured myself a cup of coffee. She held her phone with trembling hands. 1 ring, 2 rings. Then she gasped sharply and burst into tears, almost collapsing into herself. She looked up at me, voice shaking. They suspended me. I didn't respond. I simply nodded, because honestly, what else did she expect after everything? She kept rambling through sobs. "Brian, someone reported us. HR says they're opening an investigation. I might get fired. Ryan, please talk to them." Tell them something, please, I'm begging you. But here's the truth, I no longer had any obligation to save the woman who destroyed my marriage, and she knew it. By noon, her parents called me, both of them panicking. Her mother opened the conversation with exactly what I expected. Ryan, you can't let this happen. Emily says you told her company. Do you understand what this will do to her career? I responded calmly. I didn't ruin her career. Emily did that. Her father jumped in furious. She made a mistake. Couples go through rough patches. You can't be this cold. Cold. That was their word for it. They forgot Emily sat in our driveway kissing another man. They forgot she drove home and looked me in the eye while feeding me lies. They forgot she only confessed when she realized I had proof. I hung up before they finished their lecture. In the afternoon, Emily finally gathered enough courage to face me again. She stepped into my office, looking small and like a child after breaking something expensive. Her voice cracked. I have nowhere to go. If you throw me out now, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'd read lines like this on Reddit stories for years, but hearing it in real life hits different, not because I felt sympathy, but because I realized she genuinely believed I would rescue her. I set my pen down and met her eyes. You're not being thrown out today. You have 30 days. The papers are signed. She almost collapsed, but I wasn't finished. And I'm not paying your bills. Not your hotel. Not your rent. Not your transition period. Nothing. You created this mess. You deal with it. She sobbed harder, grabbing the edge of my desk to stay upright. Why are you being so cruel? I stood. I'm not being cruel. I'm done paying the price for your mistakes. The next morning, I received an email from her HR department. Both individuals involved in the internal investigation have been suspended. Thank you for providing the necessary information. Both individuals, Emily and Brian, the man she betrayed me for. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel revenge. I felt clarity, peace, a sense of oxygen returning to my lungs after months of suffocation. 10 days before she had to move out, Emily left a small envelope outside my door. Not an apology. Not excuses, just one line. I hope one day you can forgive me. I don't think I'll ever forgive myself. I folded it and placed it in a drawer, not because I wanted to keep it, but because it marked the end of a chapter that should have ended long ago. What came next was even clearer. I wasn't carrying Emily anymore. I wasn't lying to myself about who she really was. I wasn't living in constant doubt. Freedom isn't always walking away from a bad person. Sometimes it's walking back toward the man you used to be. And I realized something. A betrayed man doesn't need to scream for revenge. He just needs to walk away and let the betrayer face the consequences they created.